And action. Welcome to the Action Podcast. This is episode 14. And today we are going to be reviewing Nope, a new Jordan Peele film. We'll also be going over one of our lists. Will be the top 5 best Black filmmakers in honor of Nope, and give out some shout outs to some African Americans that made great films. And then we'll be reviewing The Gray Man, which is on Netflix now. It's by the Russo Brothers, and then we'll be talking about the top 5 best directing duos in order of the Russo Brothers, in honor of the Russo Brothers. And then we'll quickly go through some of the news and notes coming out of Comic-Con and a couple new trailers, things of that nature. And yeah, that's what we have in store for today. So Pete, let's get into it. Our Nope review. I'll let you go first, Pete. What were your thoughts on Nope?
Nope. I mean, I saw it twice, and it was a great film. I mean, Jordan Peele is just continuing to impress me every time he does something. I thought this was a very innovative way to sort of tell this sort of story. You could do a UFO story all day, but spoilers. To make a UFO craft that is supposed to be kind of looming and sort of frightening for the people in the movie, to make it an actual entity and to make it actually something that is going to consume you, if possible, it was a great take on a UFO film. I mean, all UFO films are all about the craft and about little green men that come out of it. But this one just took it to a different level. And I mean, the performances were stellar. Even the supporting cast, they were all amazing. I think it was perfectly cast. And I thought it was great. I recommend going and seeing it like now. Turn off the podcast, go and see this film.
That's great advice, Pete.
And there's a
That's how we grow. That's how we grow our audience, Pete, by telling them to leave right now in the middle of it.
Tell them to get out of here and go see the film. But you need to go and see this film.
Yeah.
There's a huge in-depth sort of analysis of this film that we can get into at some point. But on the base of this review this is like really great. This is probably one of my favorite films of the year so far.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it myself. Kind of like what you're saying. I enjoyed this kind of creative take on it, and I always love films that are also kind of about filmmaking. And so, the main characters in this one, they run a horse ranch that supplies, they're basically horse trainers for film and TV and commercials and whatnot. I love the backstory of this, where the grandparents the grandparent, the man that started the ranch, he was also the first actor in cinema history, where there's a clip, and they used a real clip, which is not technically the first one, but they added this to the backstory, where he's like the first kind of famous image on film. And right. Again, just super interesting how they kind of all combined everything. And like Pete said, one of the interesting points, and again, the rest of this will kind of be spoiler alert, so fast forward, but I also liked how there was an evolution with the ship, and that plays into the ending, on ultimately how they choose to defeat it. But I liked how it was, again, kind of an evolving ship, and just how they figured it out, and the problem solving that the characters had to go through to, defeat this ship was, again, just a very interesting concept and innovative in that way. And like Pete said, there's a bunch of there's some articles on it if you guys want to kind of get more in depth on it. I don't really feel comfortable spewing it out myself, only because, like I said, I've only seen it once, and I think there's different layers on it. I don't just want to regurgitate stuff. But
the thing I will say about a little bit of an in-depth sort of thought process into this film is that it starts off with this on set of like an old TV show where what's the actor's name? He's in The Walking Dead. Steven
Yeun.
Steven Yeun. He was a kid actor. He played alongside like a family and a chimpanzee. Things go horribly wrong one day, and the chimpanzee ends up like killing everybody on set except for him. But the idea of a spectacle is something that is very, very prominent throughout this whole film. The spectacle of the UFO, the spectacle of a chimp on set, performing, and everyone just clapping along and kind of going with the flow. And this film really kind of makes you sort of think about what it means when you're involved in sort of that spectacle aspect of society, and kind of what that kind of turns us into. Are we people that are just going to kind of go along with the flow, or are we people that are going to sort of kind of break free of that and sort of accomplish something that we're supposed to accomplish, which the main character in this film, Nope, actually does. Like he's one of these guys that just doesn't have any sort of technology at all. He wants no part of it, and he's the only one that really kind of figures out how to sort of defeat or at least avoid this UFO, and it's really, really a powerful, and there's so many layers to this film that I really urge you to go and see this film. Think about it, rewatch it again if you can, if you've got the AMC pass. It's a great way to continue to go and see these films multiple times. And it's just and then go read about it. Go read about what people are saying online, because it's fascinating. The amount of depth in this movie, which is why, spoiler, I mean, Jordan Peele is by far, I think my favorite sort of Black director, filmmaker, innovator, creator. He's incredible. I don't think you can touch him at this point.
Yeah, he's definitely ascending. I mean, did you ever watch his Twilight Zone stuff yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was pretty good stuff. I need to finish it. I didn't finish it yet, but it was good what I saw so far. And again, he just has that kind of mind that not only is intelligent and deep, but also, again, he's obviously a comedian as well. So he also can add that layer as well into these serious subjects, and again find ways to poke fun of things, as well as delve into deeper issues. And to just quickly add on to what Pete's saying, I mean, ultimately it's a commentary on how we've evolved into the social media age. And again, like people we do it for the gram, or we do that, and everyone's kind of guilty of that. And so
subscribe, like, smash that like button.
Yeah, with that being said, guys, make sure you like and subscribe.
That being said, make sure to go ahead and smash that like button.
Yeah. So again, just there's a lot of good articles on it. So if you want to go further into that, this is not what this podcast is for newer films. We do that on for other films, but for this one, we want to make sure you still go see it. So we don't want to be the spoiler guys on that, but go check it out for sure. And so so with that, Pete, let's move on to our first list. And again, to honor Jordan Peele, I wanted to do our top 5 best Black filmmakers, African-American filmmakers in history. And so, Pete, if you want to start, I'll go second.
Yeah, I'll start. This was tough because, I went modern. I know that there are so many influential and sort of groundbreaking and trailblazing Black filmmakers throughout history, but I really kind of kept things a little bit more current, only because I think that the work that they're doing is really great. Number 5 for me is Ryan Coogler. He was incredible. I mean, not only does he just crush it in like the Black Panther, and we're going to see Wakanda Forever pretty soon, but I mean, Creed was just an innovative way to continue an IP, in a different way, You
He's
got,
arguably the most successful
totally.
one, because again, even just, I mean, Black Panther itself is, you know, a $1 billion franchise, or just under a billion, to just under $1 billion. And then, like you're saying, the Creed franchise, I think both films, I think combined, possibly made $1 billion. So again, no one's really had those kind of numbers. So he's, you know, he's still kind of early in his career. So I think there's, you know, he can move up this list like,
oh my gosh,
pretty fairly easily.
Sure. In a couple of years, he might be 3 or 2 on this list.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and then you kind of pepper in Fruitvale Station, which was a great film.
Yeah, that was his first film.
He didn't direct it, but he produced Judas and the Black Messiah, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was good.
Wow. So, I mean, he's just one of these up and coming guys that I'm projecting is going to be one of the greats. Number 4 for me is F. Gary Gray. I mean, he hit us with a real comedy twist with Friday. Then he just kind of blew our minds with Straight Outta Compton. But he did like things like The Italian Job, Be Cool, MIB International, which I never saw, but it's a huge franchise.
Yeah.
But not only that, I mean, this guy did some of the classic videos in hip hop and rap that you've ever seen, from like Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, TLC, Outkast. I mean, this guy's like library is extensive. So he's number 4 on my list. Number 3 is Antoine Fuqua. Is that proper? Is that right? Okay.
Antoine Fuqua, yeah.
I mean, Training Day was incredible, and then you kind of throw in the Equalizer movies, Magnificent Seven. He's producing Bullet Train, which is coming out pretty soon, which I can't wait to see. As well as he did a phenomenal documentary called What's My Name, which is the Muhammad Ali documentary. He just crushed. So that's it. Number 2, I put Spike Lee. I couldn't make him number 1, even though he's an innovator. I mean, his list of films and just his presence alone in not only in the entertainment industry, but in the world in general, like in the sports world, like everywhere you turn, you can kind of run into Spike Lee. He's incredible. Yeah. He's number 2. Number 1 for me is Jordan Peele, because I think that this guy, this was a comedian who did so many great things in the world of comedy, and then he took that and he turned it into this sort of filmmaker who he could have gone the comedy route.
Yeah.
100%, you know, but I mean, he's starting to make these films. He's done 3 that really just kind of made me think differently about filmmaking and the process and the thought that you put into making a film. Like, he's brilliant. He makes you think on a level that nobody's really made me think of in quite some time. He also produced Black Klansman, which was like awesome as well. Like he's good. I just don't see anybody touching him. I mean, he's on a streak.
Well, I think Coogler can.
Maybe eventually, but right now, Jordan Peele's, he's number 1 on my list. I mean, this guy makes me break down film like I've never tried to before. Like, he next level filmmaker.
Yeah. That's a good list. That's a good list. Mine's slightly different. Not too much. It's. I mean, I hate leaving off Antoine Fuqua. But when you see my list, it's like I would put him in this list, if that makes sense. Like, he's deserving of 4 or 5, I think, just with anybody. But you know, again, we kind of had to pick 5, and so I'll go differently just to get a couple other names in there. But I had number 5, F. Gary Gray, for all the reasons that you're saying. Straight Outta Compton for me is, and Friday, I would say, are the 2 why he's on that list. Is those are just 2 great films, especially in our era. Number 4 is Ryan Coogler, for pretty much all the reasons. I legitimately think he's the most successful director of all time. So he should be number 1 theoretically, but these other guys just had more kind of historically relevant films, and so that's why I have them higher. Number 3 for me is John Singleton. You know, he kind of especially in like the 80s and 90s, you know, he had so many kind of classic films. Boys in the Hood was you know, really kind of impactful on me. One of, you know, real kind of serious film, but it's also like that's where we grew up. I mean, we didn't grow up in the hood like that, but
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't
not quite there.
Not quite there, but it wasn't far from us. So, you know, it's like just, you know, when we would drive through, you'd drive through kind of those areas every once in a while. And so yeah, it was just
funny. Isn't it funny how, you know, we could have been so close growing up and have zero idea about what was going on in that area of LA. It's
yeah,
phenomenal. I mean, there was no news coverage. I mean, nobody cared.
yeah,
And that's why, I mean, I think that's why that film was so impactful.
for sure.
Yeah, along with groups like NWA, who actually brought things to light and actually started talking about it openly.
Well, and that launched Ice Cube's acting career, right? So that's, you know, again, it was pivotal for that. But you know, everybody just remembers Ricky, and again, just such an impactful film. He made other films as well, so it's not just a one film for him. But
he's on my honorable mention. I hated leaving him off, but
yeah,
these other guys on my list were.
Yeah, number two for me is Spike Lee. You know, Spike Lee has some of my favorite films. 25th Hour is one of them. He Got Game, among others. Do the Right Thing.
Man was sneaky good. Like that's a
which one?
Film Inside Man.
Oh yeah, that's really good too.
So good.
And Spike Lee again was just so influential for many filmmakers, and very innovative with his visual style. You know, he's a true pioneer in filmmaking in general. And so, you know, that's why he's number two. And again, I could put him number one easily, but I went kind of like the guy that started it all for number one, and that's Oscar Micheaux. And, you know, I saw several of his films in film school. You know, we watched several of his silent films, but again, you know, I kind of just went old school and with the guy again that kind of literally trailblazed for other people. And, you know, he did it independently. You know, he got funding independently. And again, you're talking in the 20s when, you know, the opportunities were so limited for
you
someone.
Want money for a film?
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
But he still was able to find an audience and be profitable. And again, made a career and living out of it. And again, he's the guy that started it all. So I put him number one. You know, just again, read about him if you guys haven't heard. If you don't know who he is, many people probably don't, but us people in the film world do know him. And again, he's there's actually a film festival after him that was it's actually I think it just passed, or it's happening this week. But yeah, so yeah, that's my list.
Couple honorable mentions for me. I mean, Steve McQueen doesn't have the body of work.
Steve McQueen.
But I mean, 12 Years a Slave was an incredibly impactful film. I thought from top to bottom, I think that he is one of these guys that you're going to see in the future.
Butler,
doing a bunch of really great work. And the last honorable mention for me is Tyler Perry. Like I personally have not seen any of his films, but what this guy has been able to sort of like amass is staggering. It's just staggering what he has accomplished.
He's probably the most successful producer. Like
successful, but I mean,
he's more of a producer.
Filmmaking. What I know about him on a not a personal level, like because I know him, but like from what I hear, like outside of the film world, he's one of the more sort of generous and somebody that really just kind of puts back into the community and is really a special guy. But I couldn't put him on my list because I don't know his work, but I have to acknowledge the fact that Tyler Perry is he's an
innovator as well.
He's an incredible person. And I had to say it.
Yeah. And then the other one for me was Ava DuVernay. Kind of the same thing. Her body of work isn't as robust as these other people. When you're talking about, especially a female African-American filmmaker, she's, you know, might be number one, really, again, kind of creating new avenues for people and a role model in that respect. And then, you know, I think, again, kind of like what you're saying with Steve McQueen, his definitely has a career on the rise. And, you know, I think she's going to continue to make very influential projects. Yeah, and the other one I had too was Forrest Whitaker. I mean, he's more actor, but he does direct projects here and there. Robert Townsend, and yeah, and then you said Stephen Queen. So those are mine list as well. Awesome. So let's get into Gray Man review, Pete. I have not finished it yet, just because I'm here on location. But if you want to give the review, I can kind of bounce off what you have.
Sure.
And then...
Sure. Gray Man is one of these movies that if you're like, I need to watch a movie tonight. You go watch Gray Man. It's a good film to watch, and you'll be entertained from start to finish. This is certainly the beginning of a potential franchise. There's probably going to be more of these. I thought Ryan Gosling was really. I mean, it wasn't like when Bourne came out, and I was like, Matt Damon in a movie like this, there's no way it's going to work. And meanwhile, he crushed, right? Like, Ryan Gosling is going to be really good in this film, and he delivers. Chris Evans as the villain was a great sort of twist, like, because we know him as Captain America, and in
I really enjoyed him in this.
He's always a good guy.
So he's funny too. He's funny in this.
He's hilarious, and that's the thing about this film. It's funny. There's action packed. My girlfriend is in it, Ana De Armas, who is just incredibly gorgeous, and is a great actress. She can just do a whole bunch of like different things, and then I'm really looking forward to the Marilyn Monroe, to hear her without the accent and really kind of take on an iconic role. Like, I mean, she's next level. She's going to just continue to rise. But the story itself is good. It flows. Certainly if we break it down, there's certain things that maybe, well, I wouldn't have done this. And that, there's always things that you can say about it. But in general, go and see this film. It's incredible. It's action packed. It's in your face. It's clever. Billy Bob Thornton is good in it. He's got sort of a smaller role, but he's always good.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
like I said, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm almost finished with it, but again, I just didn't have time with everything I got going on. But
right.
I'm enjoying it so far, and I agree with Pete. Like, definitely check it out. Super kind of a fun ride, and the fighting is actually really good too. There's a couple times like, I made some external noises, which I don't always do. So, to me, I especially when I like to give reviews, I go by sometimes just my initial reactions on how I deal with it while I watch it. So to me, that's a good sign. There's many an action film I watch where I don't make any sort of movement or gesture or anything like that. And this one, I've made several so far. So go check that out.
Anytime you do CIA operative, nobody has a real identity. So if something happens to you, you're invisible.
Yeah.
Anytime you take that sort of scenario, like a Bourne, you know what I mean? Like I'm all in, like, immediately. So I went into this film very positive and looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint. Like I didn't go and see it and go, well, that wasn't what I expected at all, because you can completely see this turning into, Gray Man 2, 3, and and beyond. Who knows?
Yeah, that'll be fun. It'd be
awesome.
Great. So go check it out on Netflix now. And then with that, we'll do another quick list here. We want to honor top 5 best directing duos in honor of the Russo brothers that directed this. So I'll go first, Pete, and give you my top 5. My number 5 is Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. And, they did the Lego movie. They did 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street. And, again, they started in animation, but they've moved on to live action and comedy. And these guys are, again, really, really good. And
top 5. Interesting.
Yeah. My number 4 is the Wachowskis. And, they're mainly known for The Matrix, among other films. I forgot what the other one is. The one that it's a noir film. But that one was good as well. My number 3 is the Russo brothers. Again, for me, it started with Civil War, and then, for them to crush it in Infinity War and Endgame. I mean, that alone puts them on the list. But then you had this movie now, and again, I think their career is just going to continue to get better. My number two, and this was hard. I wanted to put them number one, but I put it number two just because probably just choosing comedy over not, but is the Coen brothers. Again, True Grit. You guys have heard some of my other lists, but True Grit's on many of them, and they're on it as well. No Country for Old Men, of course. But yeah, they're just beasts in the industry. And my number one is the Farrelly brothers. Dumb and Dumber is the film for me, and that film probably put them over the top versus the Coen brothers. But the Farrelly brothers are just so hilarious and innovative with comedy. Something About Mary, and yeah, that's my list.
Wow, that's a good list. So my top five directing duos. Like I said, there's a lot of similarities, one difference, but the order is a little bit different. Number five for me is the Russo brothers themselves. I mean, I wanted to put them higher just based on box office numbers. Like, these guys are just crushing. They've made, I think, at this point, probably $97 billion in the box office, just based on the Captain America films. They hit us with those, and then they came back and just annihilated us with the Infinity and Endgame Avenger movies. And then you add Gray Man on top of that, which is again a potential franchise. So I mean, they're incredible. That's number five for me. Number four for me is the Zucker brothers. Zucker brothers did amazing films that in the comedy world. They did Airplane. They did Naked Gun. Like Basketball, which is not a great film, but it's funny, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they crushed with Ghost, which was a huge hit. And then they did a movie that is near and dear to my heart, which is called My Life, starring Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman.
Right. Yeah, you used to watch that all the time.
It's one of my favorite movies. Like, if you ever just need to have a good cry, watch My Life. You will cry a lot. I cry every time I see this film, and I've seen it like 50 times. And the soundtrack is great. I mean, it's not John Barry's best, but I mean, it's a good soundtrack. Number three for me is the Wachowskis, of course, because of The Matrix, but also because, I mean, they wrote and produced V for Vendetta, which is one of my favorite films of all time. I just love that movie. I can watch it 4 or 5 times a year. And then they also did
hot take there, guys. Hot take.
But they also did an incredible TV series on Netflix called Sense8. Now, if you're okay with seeing like some really graphic sort of interactions between same sex, if you can get past that, it's fantastic. But even those scenes, you really get a sense of, how love is love, and it doesn't matter who you are and who you're with. It just really displays. But then they add like superpowers to it, and it's an incredible story. Sense8, I highly recommend it. Number two for me, again, like you said, I wanted to put them number one, but it's the Coen brothers. I mean, True Grit was phenomenal. No Country for Old Men. I know people didn't like the ending, but it's a brilliantly written film. Mm-hmm. Then you have like Big Lebowski. You've got Fargo, and then if you like go back in time, you've got
Fargo. Yeah, Fargo's really good.
You've got Raising Arizona, and you even have like a quirky sort of like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou movie. I mean, it just continues their list. And then number one for me is the Farrelly brothers, because not only do you just crush with comedy with Dumb and Dumber, like you said, Something About Mary, Me, Myself, and Irene, Shallow Hal, Fever Pitch, which is like one of my favorite movies ever. But then they do something like Green Book. That is just
that was just one of them, though. I don't think they both directed that.
Oh, that was just one?
I think so.
Shucks.
But I think they might have both written it, maybe. One of them, I think, just produced it. I don't think it was
both involved. Either way, if they're involved, home run. Every time. I think that the Farrelly brothers are
for sure.
So like the future, when the Escarcega brothers come into play, and then we'll be the number one on the list.
Yeah, exactly. We'll move our way up. We'll move our way up on that list. Awesome. That's good list. Good list. Okay. So Pete, we'll just
honorable mention, the Hughes brothers.
Oh yeah.
Menace to Society, Dead Presidents, From Hell.
Yeah.
Book of Eli, which I really enjoyed. Book of Eli. I watch it several times, and then Broken City, which isn't great, but it's still a good movie. I think that the Hughes brothers are great as well.
Yeah, and the Softy brothers as well. They did Uncut Gems. They're on the rise.
Yeah.
So awesome. Okay, so Comic-Con was this past weekend. A lot of news coming out of there. We'll try and highlight some of it. The number one is Marvel revealed Avengers 5 and 6. And they have names. Number 5 is King Dynasty, and number 6 is Secret Wars, and it's based off of a comic in the 80s. It did, but it gives us a little insight in terms of what the next what's this phase really about, and they're calling this the multiverse, the multiverse saga. So the last one was called the Infinity Saga. This is called the Multiverse Saga. So
they released 5 and 6.
Well, because
the phases,
No, it says Avengers 5 and 6.
No, not Avengers. In terms of the Marvel, the MCU phases, we just finished phase 4, right?
Right.
I think they revealed the timeline for 5, and I think they revealed for 6 too.
Oh, maybe I'm just reading the. Oh yeah. Because again, a lot of people were complaining about the phase 4. No, this is the. Oh, now the title is Avengers 4 and 5. Sorry, yeah, you're right though. I think they're talking about the phases when I mentioned 5 and 6.
There's a ton of stuff coming up in phase 5 that sounds incredible, and even in phase 6, like the fact that but that's how great Marvel is that they are able to, think ahead so far in advance, because it's just like an ever-growing sort of timeline.
Yeah.
And they have amazing characters that they're able to, like, if it's not like what was it that I just saw? I'm almost finished with Hawkeye. Not bad, but they're not making a movie out of Hawkeye, so they make a series out of it, and it did okay. It's not bad. So they're at least aware of which characters are film worthy and which ones are, Disney Plus.
Yeah, for sure. And then other properties are kind of basically officially released or going to have release dates. Fantastic Four is officially going to be back in it November 2024, and it's going to be part of Marvel Phase 6.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 had a trailer come out. It's not out in public yet because James Gunn said the VFX isn't available. Blade has a 2023 release.
Blade.
That'll be coming out next year, November 3rd, it looks like.
Daredevil too.
Yeah, Daredevil.
I'm really curious to see their take, like a real take on those two properties. Like Daredevil didn't do well. Blade was good when it first came out, but then they did sequels and it was like, ugh.
I actually liked all the Blades. I mean, the third one when they brought in Jessica Biel and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with you. Like number 3 was actually in a way like the best one just because of the star power. I mean, they weren't even really stars.
But they were fine. I mean, they were fine movies. But just imagine what the people behind MCU what they're going to do to Blade.
For sure.
God, man, they're going to just my brain's going to blow up.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan Gosling is calling to play Ghost Rider apparently in the MCU, and Kevin Feige is like, yeah, well, we want to figure out a way to get him in. Again,
not Nicolas Cage again.
Yeah.
Oh,
but God. Yeah, there's tons of news coming out. I just want to highlight some of that stuff. I know Black Adam had I think a final trailer come out as well. Wakanda Forever released their trailer. That was a really good trailer, and definitely looking forward to that. You definitely can see now where they're kind of going to go with it, with no Chadwick Boseman. So if you haven't seen that trailer, check it out. What else, Pete? Am I missing anything off the top of your head?
Nope. No,
awesome.
Off the top of my head.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it up.
Top of my head is more Christopher Reeve right now, which I don't.
But yeah, guys, make sure you like, subscribe. We're now on Apple and Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We are now officially live in, and we're pretty much caught up to date. By the time this will come out, podcasts will be available the same day now moving forward. So a little bit of a milestone for us. And yeah, keep subscribing, keep liking, and help us continue to grow. And thank you, guys.
And
cut.
Cat.
Thanks.